RetroBlasting is a YouTube channel for adult pop culture enthusiasts. Anyone under the age of 13 should only watch this channel with your parents. RetroBlasting is not a children's channel. Is this it? Could this be the last major Voltron we have to review on this channel? Have we reached the end of the journey? Ever since our channel began, we've covered all of the major releases of any classic depiction of Voltron that can combine. While we haven't yet discussed Voltron 2, it should be remembered that the producers aborted the plans for that Voltron. So at best, it's an outlier. In the mythology of the series, there were only two, Lion Force and Vehicle Force. And as we went through over a decade of various tribute Voltrons from Toynami, a rather dubious effort from Mattel, and a somewhat uneven Playmates result, two things were clear. Vehicle Voltron was getting no love, and the effort to finally get a Soul of Chogokin release of either Voltron from Bandai would be a Herculean feat. When we finally got a Lion Force Beast King Golion from Bandai's venerable Soul of Chogokin series, it was easily the best Voltron we'd ever had since the original Popey Matchbox version from the 1980s. But the question lingered, would there ever be a Dairugger Vehicle Voltron from Bandai as well? Now we have the answer in our hands. Despite all the odds, both Voltrons have now been given the Soul of Chogokin treatment. But how does this long-awaited Dairugger stack up? Right from the off, you'll notice the vibrant colors and crisp lines of the SOC Dairugger, a trademark of Bandai's flagship robot series. The quality of the piece is not in dispute. He stands just a hair taller than Golion, our beloved Lion Force Voltron. But that's an appropriate nod to the massive height difference between the vintage Dairugger and Golion toys. As with all Soul of Chogokin entries, the articulation of this heavy die-cast robot is miraculously impressive. But the conundrum with such an expensive piece is the same as with Golion. How often are you honestly going to be pulling this thing apart or reposing it? You're going to combine it into its robot mode, find a pose that you like the best, and leave it that way for years in a display case. For all the articulation built in, few collectors are going to exploit that on a regular basis. Similarly, the Dairugger's ability to separate into its various vehicles and vehicle teams doesn't really interest me. I know this is going to sound like heresy, but I really don't care about the vehicle teams in toy form. I just want a really great combined Dairugger. So yes, it can combine into all of those vehicle teams and separate vehicles, but I'm not about to sit here and intricately review each one of those for you. Just know it can do it. But it's nice that Bandai gives you almost complete freedom to pose it any way you want before display. Just as with the Soul of Chogokin Golion, Bandai gives you an arsenal of weapons and a fancy display stand for them that even holds the 4 pairs of alternate hands on the underside. And yes, you get to choose whether you display it as Dairugger or Voltron. Almost every weapon Vehicle Voltron used that only 1% of Voltron fans even remember is right here in this set, some in both inert forms and energized forms. His laser whip is even included as a fully sculpted, poseable accessory with a wire running through it so it can defy gravity, unlike the Miracle version, which was just a long, floppy, rubber, yellow thingy. Speaking of the Miracle Metalworks version when compared with the Bandai version, the result is the same as comparing the Soul of Chogokin Golion with the Toynami Voltron. The Miracle Metalworks version is taller and slightly bulkier for the most part, and while not as tightly engineered as Bandai's, that gives it distinct advantages in terms of everyday handling. The Bandai version stands better because the feet vehicles can retract their wheels, while the Miracle version is on roller skates by default. The Bandai version's wrist sockets are better engineered, so his hands aren't going to pop off during posing like the Miracle version. The Bandai version's shoulder propellers slide off easily, so you can get that accurate robot depiction without compromise. The Miracle shoulders have to be disassembled to remove the offending helicopter rotors. But after disassembly, the Miracle version doesn't have little posts sticking out of the shoulders like the Bandai version does. And the Miracle version, as I said, has its own advantages. For one, the Miracle version uses a magnet to hold the chest jet to the figure, a much simpler and more durable solution than a return to the fragile clip method employed by Bandai. Yes, the chest jet magnet isn't the strongest, but these tiny clips breaking is a real possibility if overused. Also, the Miracle robot has a much easier time holding his sword with both hands, something both SOC Voltrons tend to struggle with. Admittedly, sword handling is a lot easier for the Vehicle Voltron than it was for the Soul of Chogokin Lion Force. The Soul of Chogokin Vehicle Voltron fares a lot better with built-in shoulder movement in the torso piece. But the hands are where things get weird with the Bandai design. With the Miracle version, all of the alternate hands have the same width as the wrists they attach to. With Bandai, only the vehicle fists themselves are in proportion. All of the special hands for holding the shoulder blades, or making expressive fists, or open palms, or what have you, are much smaller than the vehicle they're attaching to. It's bizarre. Your Voltron suddenly has tiny hands. The only saving grace is the fact that the basic vehicle hands have opening fingers. So if, like myself, all you care about for display is the sword, the basic vehicle hands can hold it just fine. Despite the Miracle version's various advantages, the Soul of Chogokin Dairugger is far easier to assemble than Miracle Metalworks. It's also far more stable and poseable in the long run, and when paired with the Soul of Chogokin Golion, it's easily the last word in die-cast Voltron toys. But like the Toonami Lion Force, the Miracle Metalworks Vehicle Force Voltron is more fun to mess around with. Because it's not so tightly wound, there's less anxiety fiddling with its abilities. In that respect, and in the relative heights of the figures, the Toonami and Miracle are a matched pair, just as the Soul of Chogokin Voltrons are also a natural set. And while you can still argue to this day whether the vintage die-cast Lion Force is superior to the Soul of Chogokin, there's no question the Soul of Chogokin Vehicle Force runs circles around the creaky, fragile, plastic original Dairugger. Vehicle Voltron's merchandising history has been storied and troubled, a truly neglected part of Voltron's legacy. The adapted series was rejected by children in the 80s. The original robot was rickety and easily broken. It never received a panache place version that figures could fit inside. Toonami never made a combining version. Mattel didn't make one. Playmates didn't make one. The Miracle version was almost an official release, but timing was not on its side, and it hit the market as an abandoned bootleg. And yet, despite all of that, Armored Fleet Dairugger 15 has leapt from the back 40 to the forefront as part of Bandai's revered Soul of Chogokin series. There's no better redemption story than that.